All right, let's get started with today's deep dive. We're going to be talking about pipeline forecasting. And, this is really crucial stuff if you're in sales or revenue leadership. I mean, it's all about making those big decisions, the kind that impact the whole company, right? So we're going to break down how to make those predictions as accurate as possible. And to guide us through this, we've got Nova with us, a true expert when it comes to revenue intelligence and all things pipeline management.
It's fantastic to be here. Pipeline forecasting, it's like peering into a crystal ball, but we're not relying on magic here. We're using hard data.
Hmm.
Data from your sales pipeline, to be precise, to really get a clear picture of what future revenue might look like.
Exactly. And it's not just about looking at last year's numbers. It's a much deeper dive than that, right? It's about understanding each stage of your sales process.
Absolutely. It's understanding how leads are moving through that pipeline
Hmm.
and then using that knowledge to make some really strategic decisions about resources, targets, your overall strategy, the whole 9 yards.
So let's jump right into it. Why is accurate sales forecasting so crucial, especially for B2B companies?
All right, imagine this. You're a sales leader and you're gearing up for the next quarter, but you're trying to do it without accurate forecasting. It's kind of like trying to build a house without knowing how much lumber you need or what the weather's going to be like.
Oh, I like that analogy. It really
Yeah.
sets the scene.
So, accurate forecasting, that's your foundation, right? It's what you base your budgeting on, your inventory management, resource allocation, all those really critical pieces that keep your business running smoothly.
And it's about more than just keeping things ticking over, isn't it?
Right. It's about being proactive, anticipating those market demands, aligning your sales strategies, and even spotting potential risks and opportunities.
Yeah, being able to adapt quickly when the market throws you a curveball.
That agility is key. And don't forget your CROs and RevOps teams. They're the conductors of this whole orchestra, if you will, making sure sales, marketing, and customer success, everyone's playing in sync.
So let's break it down a bit further. What are the steps involved in analyzing a sales pipeline effectively?
Think of it like a detective investigating a case. You've got to gather your evidence, analyze all the clues, connect the dots to really understand what's going on. And the first step is mapping out that sales pipeline, identifying the key stages, those crucial steps a prospect takes to become a customer.
So walk us through those stages. What are we looking at?
All right, you've got lead generation, qualification, then comes the proposal, then negotiation, closing the deal, and of course that post-sale relationship. Each of those stages, they offer valuable data that feeds into your forecast.
It's all about the data.
Yeah.
But it's not just about collecting it, is it? It's got to be accurate. It's got to be up to date.
Oh, absolutely. That's where your CRM system comes in. Think of it like a central hub for all your sales information, keeping everything organized.
Okay, so we've got our data. Now, how do we analyze it? I mean, we're not just talking about simple spreadsheets anymore, are we?
You're absolutely right. We've got some pretty powerful tools and techniques these days that can really reveal insights you might otherwise miss.
So what kind of tools are we talking about?
Well, first off, you've got your CRM, your trusty sidekick. Then you've got data visualization tools, things like Tableau. They can help you spot trends and patterns, make sense of all that data visually. But the real game changer, I think, is revenue intelligence.
Okay, revenue intelligence. That sounds intriguing.
These platforms, they take things a step further. They analyze the conversations your sales team is having with prospects, whether it's calls, emails, even video conferences. They capture it all.
So it's like having a fly on the wall during every sales interaction.
Exactly. And by understanding the sentiment, the objections raised, those key moments in the conversation, revenue intelligence tools, they can uncover some hidden insights and provide incredibly accurate predictions.
We're almost like a secret weapon for sales teams.
And they can even highlight areas where coaching and development might be needed.
Wow, so much valuable information. So beyond those tools, what other techniques should sales leaders be using to really fine-tune their forecasts?
Well, there are some powerful statistical methods that can really elevate your forecasting game. Historical data analysis, for example. That's like looking back at your past sales performance to identify trends and patterns that can inform your future predictions.
Right, so if there are seasonal trends or factors that consistently influence your numbers.
Exactly. All of that provides valuable clues for the future. Then you've got predictive analytics, which uses statistical techniques to build models that forecast those future outcomes.
And it's all based on that historical data, right?
Precisely. It's about finding those correlations, crunching the numbers, and using that data to create a model that provides valuable insights into what's likely to happen down the line.
And of course, we can't forget about AI and machine learning. They're revolutionizing so many industries, including sales forecasting, right?
They really are. These technologies are able to analyze massive amounts of data, finding those hidden patterns that we humans might miss. And they can even automate aspects of the forecasting process, freeing up valuable time and resources for sales and revenue leaders.
That's the dream, right? More time to focus on strategy and big picture thinking.
Yeah.
But let's be realistic for a moment. No process is perfect, and there are bound to be challenges when it comes to pipeline forecasting. What are some of the common hurdles that people trip over?
You're absolutely right. There are definitely hurdles along the way. And one of the biggest is data quality. If you're working with incomplete, outdated, or just plain wrong data, your forecasts are going to be off target.
Garbage in, garbage out, as they say.
It's like trying to bake a cake with spoiled ingredients. No matter how good your recipe is, the result just won't be what you expected.
That's a great analogy. So data quality, that's a big one.
Another challenge is inconsistent sales processes. If each sales team has their own way of doing things, it becomes really difficult to get a reliable overall picture of your pipeline.
Right, you need that consistency to be able to compare apples to apples.
It's like trying to fit puzzle pieces from different puzzles together. It just doesn't work.
And then there are those external factors. Yeah. The things that are outside of our control, but can still have a big impact.
You're talking about market trends, economic conditions, global events even. All of those can throw a wrench into even the best laid plans.
So how do we tackle these challenges, Nova? How do we make our forecasts as accurate as possible?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? When it comes to data quality, establishing a culture of data hygiene is absolutely crucial. Implement data validation techniques, conduct regular audits, and consider automating your CRM data entry as much as possible. That way, you can reduce those manual errors, keep everything consistent.
So it's about having those checks and balances in place.
For those inconsistent sales processes, standardization is key. Invest in comprehensive sales training, establish clear guidelines and procedures, and make sure everyone's on the same page using the same playbook.
That alignment is so important.
And to account for those unpredictable external factors, make market analysis a regular habit. Stay informed about industry trends, economic indicators, and be prepared to adjust your forecasts based on what you learn.
It's all about being adaptable, being able to pivot when necessary.
It's about having that agile mindset and being able to adapt to the circumstances.
Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about best practices.
Yeah.
What can CROs and RevOps teams do to really knock their pipeline forecasting out of the park?
First and foremost, make regular review and update of your sales pipeline a non-negotiable. Don't just set it and forget it. Continuously monitor that pipeline, identify any bottlenecks or roadblocks, and make those necessary adjustments along the way.
So it's about being proactive, staying on top of things.
And don't underestimate the power of collaboration. Your sales and marketing teams, they should be working in sync, sharing information, aligning their efforts to drive revenue growth.
Breaking down those silos, right?
Absolutely. Joint lead generation, qualification, nurturing efforts, they're all essential for a healthy and predictable pipeline.
And finally, embrace a mindset of continuous improvement and learning.
The world of sales, it's constantly evolving, so it's crucial to stay up to date with the latest best practices, technologies, industry trends, everything.
Never stop learning, right?
Exactly. Invest in training and development for your team, encourage them to experiment with new tools and techniques, and create a culture where learning is celebrated. That's how you stay ahead of the curve.
That's how you achieve sustainable growth, for sure. So Nova, all of this has been incredibly insightful, but for our listeners who are ready to take action, what are some immediate steps they can take?
Here are a few things you can do right away. Review your data collection processes. Make sure you're capturing the right information at each stage of your sales pipeline, and that your data is accurate and up to date. That's step one. Step two, explore revenue intelligence tools. These platforms can provide a wealth of insights into your sales conversations and help you make more accurate predictions. And finally, foster collaboration between your sales and marketing teams. Break down those silos and ensure everyone is working together towards common goals.
Those are some great actionable takeaways. By taking those steps, you'll be well on your way to mastering the art of pipeline forecasting and driving some serious revenue growth for your business. This has been fantastic information, Nova. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
So we're talking about best practices before we jumped into those tools and techniques. And you mentioned regular pipeline review. But how often are we talking about weekly, monthly? What's the magic number?
Well, the ideal frequency, it really depends on the pace of your business and your sales cycle. But as a general rule of thumb, I'd say review your pipeline at least weekly. That way, you can catch any potential issues early on. Make those course corrections before they snowball into major problems.
Yeah, it's all about staying ahead of the curve.
Think of it like tending a garden, you know? You don't just plant those seeds and walk away. You've got to water them, weed them, make sure they're getting enough sunlight. Regular pipeline review, it's kind of like that. It's about nurturing those deals, making sure they're moving forward.
So what are some specific things sales leaders should be looking for during these reviews?
Great question. I've got a little checklist, if you will. First up, deal stage progression. Are those deals moving through the pipeline at a healthy pace? Or are they getting stuck at certain stages? And if so, why?
Yeah, you need to identify those bottlenecks.
Then we've got deal size and value. Are you focusing on the right deals? Do you have a good mix of small, medium, and large deals in there?
It's all about having that balance.
And of course, win rates. Are they consistent across different stages and sales reps? If not, what factors might be contributing to those variations?
Those are some great points to keep in mind.
And don't forget sales cycle length. Is it getting longer, shorter? What are the implications for your forecasting accuracy?
Right, you need to be aware of those trends.
And lastly, pipeline coverage. Do you have enough deals in your pipeline to actually meet those revenue targets? If not, what actions do you need to take to increase that pipeline?
So many things to consider, but it's all valuable information.
By asking those questions regularly, you gain a really deep understanding of your pipeline's health, and that allows you to identify areas for improvement.
It sounds like these pipeline reviews can generate a lot of valuable data. But how do sales leaders actually use that data to make better decisions?
Well, that's where the real magic happens, right? Data-driven decision-making, that's the key to successful forecasting and driving revenue growth. Let me give you an example. Suppose your pipeline review reveals that deals are consistently getting stuck at the proposal stage. Now, that data point, it could indicate a few different things.
So what might be going wrong there?
Maybe your proposals aren't compelling enough. They're not clearly articulating the value proposition or addressing the customer's pain points effectively. Or maybe your pricing isn't aligned with the value you're delivering. Perhaps you need to adjust your pricing strategy or offer different pricing tiers.
Those are good points.
Or it could be that your sales team isn't effectively handling objections during that proposal stage. Maybe they need some additional training or coaching on overcoming those objections.
Yeah, there could be a lot of factors at play.
By analyzing the data from that pipeline review, you can pinpoint the root cause of that bottleneck and then take targeted actions to improve your sales process.
It's all about having that data to guide you. But it sounds like there are a lot of moving parts to pipeline forecasting. Any advice on how to keep things organized and efficient?
Absolutely. Pipeline forecasting, it can feel overwhelming if you don't have the right systems and processes in place. That's why I always recommend implementing a forecasting cadence.
Forecasting cadence. Okay, walk us through that.
It's essentially a regular schedule for reviewing, updating, and communicating your sales forecasts. It helps you stay on top of that pipeline, identify potential risks and opportunities early on, and most importantly, it keeps everyone on the same page.
So what does a typical forecasting cadence look like?
It usually involves weekly or bi-weekly meetings with your sales team. You review those individual pipelines, identify any potential roadblocks, update forecasts. Then you have monthly or quarterly meetings with your leadership team. Review those overall forecasts, discuss strategic decisions, adjust plans as needed.
It's about having that regular communication and collaboration.
Having that clear forecasting cadence helps ensure that everyone is working from the same set of numbers, which makes it so much easier to collaborate and make informed decisions.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. Key steps in analyzing the sales pipeline, those powerful tools and techniques, common challenges, solutions, best practices. It's a lot to take in.
It is, but it's all essential for effective pipeline forecasting.
What's the most important takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I think the most important thing is to approach pipeline forecasting as an ongoing process. It's not a one-time event. It's about continually monitoring your pipeline, analyzing your data, and making adjustments as needed.
It's a journey, not a destination, right?
Exactly. The more you engage in this process, the more refined your forecasting skills will become. And as your forecasting accuracy improves, you'll gain greater confidence in your ability to make those informed decisions, optimize your resources, and drive that sustainable growth for your business.
It's all about that continuous improvement. That's such a valuable insight. Pipeline forecasting isn't a set-it-and-forget-it task. It requires that constant attention and refinement. Nova, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. I know our listeners are walking away with a ton of valuable information. Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. As Nova mentioned, pipeline forecasting, it's an iterative process, and it takes time and practice to master. So don't get discouraged if those first few forecasts aren't perfect. The key is to start somewhere, learn from your experiences, and continually strive to improve that forecasting accuracy. With dedication and the right approach, you can unlock the power of pipeline forecasting and take your revenue generation to the next level. So we've covered a ton of ground here, but before we let you go, Nova, do you have any final words of wisdom? For those sales and revenue leaders out there who are ready to take their forecasting to the next level, what's your parting advice?
Embrace technology, that's what I'd say. There are so many amazing tools out there designed to make your life easier, to simplify and streamline that whole pipeline forecasting process.
We've talked about CRM systems, data visualization, revenue intelligence platforms. It's a lot to take in.
But there's more. There are specialized forecasting solutions. They can help you automate those tedious tasks, identify trends, generate more accurate predictions.
It's like having an extra set of hands and a super-powered brain.
Don't be afraid to experiment. Try different tools. Find what works best for your team.
Find that perfect fit for your business.
The right technology, it can be a real game changer. For your forecasting accuracy, for your overall sales performance, it can make a huge difference.
So many great tools and techniques to explore. Nova, thank you again for being here today and sharing such valuable insights.
It's been my pleasure. Always happy to talk about pipeline forecasting.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you the knowledge and the inspiration to really master this art of pipeline forecasting, because accurate forecasting, that's the foundation. It's the basis for informed decision-making, efficient resource allocation, and ultimately achieving those revenue goals. So go out there, put these insights into action, and watch your sales soar.
That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.